Hey, everybody. Well, it's just me tonight. It's just going to be Lee Strauss and Thomas Sewid. And he is a Native American elder. He has got one heck of a background, this guy. He's been around for a long time. If you remember Monster X Radio, he was on there as well. Not only that, he is the host and podcaster of Sasquatch Island. And not only that, there's tons more I could talk about this guy. In fact, it would be amazing if I just had the time to just go through all of the stuff that he has been doing. But why should I do that when I can invite him on right now and have him tell his story? Not only that, he's going to get into the Pacific Northwest and the Olympic Peninsula right here in the deep, dark underbelly of Washington State. Let's bring him on. How you doing, Thomas?
Doing good. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, I am super glad to have you along for the ride tonight. And I'm sure everybody else is just happy to see you. It's been a long time coming, and I'm so excited to have you here. I've known about you. I've watched you in the background, on Sasquatch Island and Monster X Radio before that. And, you're somebody that I have looked up to for a very, very long time, because your wealth of knowledge is amazing. I remember watching a video of you, I think it was up on Vancouver Island, and you were talking about the different shellfish and stuff and what time of year would be great for the Sasquatch to come out to the coast and get the shellfish and harvest the shellfish. And I was just blown away by the amount of knowledge that you have, sir. Thank you for coming aboard.
Thanks a lot. Well, the knowledge comes from me living like a Sasquatch for years out in the bush.
Right on, right on. Well, you have done it. I wish I have done it. So there you go. But sir, what brought you into this field in the first place?
Like I say, I lived in bush, and my common law wife, Peggy, she met me, I guess, around 98. We both had marriages going on, and we're, she came in with zebra striped kayak, and I was a native watchman in my abandoned native village with totem poles on the ground and big pillars from the old longhouses and all the books written about Mama Kula, village's last potlatch. And I would wear my native garb, and she came in, and we connected and were friends. And then when my marriage soured up in '08, I came across her phone number. So I was coming back down to Vancouver Island from Queen Charlotte Islands, Haida Gwaii, where I was living with my kids and my ex-monster. And when I phoned her, she just started screaming. She goes, "I thought I'd never hear from you again." So, being single now, I went and chased her, and we ended up getting together a couple months later, and been together ever since. But I was still feral because I was living and working in the bush. I just had my common law wife, mother of my children, and I separate. So I kind of snapped. And that's why I can understand rogue Sasquatches, how they are so aggressive and mean, and they just want to, do damage to anything they come across. And that's the way I was back then in '08. And so we got together, and I'd come visit her in Kent, Washington, where she lived. And I'd be there maybe a week, and she'd catch me looking out the window at Mount Rainier, Tahoma. And I'd be driving down the road with her, looking at the trees and the mountains. And she'd go, "Tom, go back to Canada. Go back to your bush world. I'll be here when you get back. Don't worry about that." So I sort of progressed until about 2014, I guess, when I could actually stay in the urban environment for over 3 weeks. And I was getting bored. So she introduced me to the remote control and finding Bigfoot. And that was just like arguing with Cliff and Bobo and Moneymaker. I'm ready to throw something at the TV. I'm like, "What's wrong with you guys? You'd never tree knock. All you're doing is telling a Sasquatch to stop, turn around, and go back where they came from. That's why they tree knock." And so she asked me a few questions and realized that I was, I guess, pretty knowledgeable about Sasquatches. She didn't know anything about them. She thought they were a myth. And then she said, "Why don't you go on a podcast. And I'm like, what's a podcast? And she goes, Google it. Sasquatch Bigfoot podcast. So I Googled it the next morning when she went to work and came across Wes Germer's Sasquatch Chronicles. So I sent him a phone message. He phoned me back an hour later and spoke for 10 minutes. And he goes, let me record you. I said, sure. So that was my first episode. And then he phoned me about a week later and he says, Tom, he goes, everything's lit up. They want to hear more of the Indian who knows all this knowledge on Sasquatch. So we did, I think, 5 or 6 more episodes. And what really broke me into the podcasting world was smallpox and Sasquatch, where I spoke about Sasquatches contracting diseases like we Indians after contact, smallpox, influenza, tuberculosis, and the list, Spanish flu, and the list goes on. And that's when everyone started getting a hold of me. And then, went to conferences, got called on the stage at Squatch Fest by Shane Corson when he was up there talking, said, oh, I want to introduce Tom Sewid, a good friend of mine. So I spoke and everyone's like, who are you? Where'd you come from? So I started Sasquatch Island, the Facebook group. It was already going. I just took it over from a friend of mine and just started posting what I chatter like a Sasquatch. I just started telling about my understanding, my beliefs and perspectives to Sasquatch, especially how they seasonally migrate for high abundant seasonal foods. And, like when we're watching Expedition Bigfoot this season, and even though I was on episode 1 and 2, but watching it, I'm like, what are they talking about? Bryce, come on now. You spent hours with me. I told you the Sasquatches don't go from California to Alaska. There's no migratory route like that. Their migratory seasonal route of travel is within their tribal territories, be it a section of the Olympic Peninsula, west, north, east, south. Sure, there'll be some interaction with the other clans, like any other Indian tribe back in the day and still nowadays. But Sasquatches, they'll stay in one location, and then you'll get the odd trooper, which I call them, like trumping is something that muskrats and river otters do, and even porcupines in the springtime when the snow is starting to melt. They're trumping away. They're got kicked out from mom and dad. They're going to find their own territory or they're going to explore. And that's exactly what Sasquatches do. There is no mass migration from Alaska down to New Mexico every year. That's just the snowbirds from Canada, the humans.
Yeah, yeah. That's the, I was thinking about that too, since my encounter at Adams is, where do they go during the wintertime? Because they're going to want to get out of the high country and get as low as they can, right? To find food and that sort of thing. So are they going all the way out to the coast, or are they just going down to some bigger lakes?
So the investigating I've done and my experiences over a lifetime clam digging on shellfish beaches and talking to the locals and the other fishermen, it's you got to look at the anthropological past of the Indian tribe from the area you're investigating. So northern Vancouver Island, we Kwakwaka'wakw Indians. We had
Mm-hmm.
our tribal territory. I'm Mamliacha, but I'm also Kwekwasidinuk, the neighboring tribe. So we had property that was our clam digging beaches, our herring harvesting areas, our salmon harvesting, our berry patches, clover patches, cedar bark harvest. It was all owned by us. And, our laws in the Kwakwaka'wakw prior to contact was if someone went into one of your harvest areas and was stealing from you, you could kill them without retaliation because that
Mm.
was our law. That's how valuable our food sources were. So Sasquatches are the same. They're just big, hairy Indians. That's all they are. They're humans. They're just bigger, hairier, nocturnal vision. They're the humans of the night. So in an anthropological way, they're going to be identical, overlapped, and correlated to the Indian tribes of that region. So for you, for example, from over in Muckleshoot tribal territories.
Mm.
They don't go to the end of the Olympic Peninsula unless it's a canoe journey, a basketball tournament, or a powwow. They might go visit, but they generally stay within their Muckleshoot traditional territories, as would the Chehalis and the Macaws, the Quileutes, the Queets, the Quinaults, and it's no different throughout all of Sasquatch Island, North America, and the Sasquatches are doing the exact same thing. But nature's code, you got to strengthen your species by not intermarrying, mating within the same tight circle. So you
Right.
will get those young males and females that are.
Well, you're stuck, Thomas. Hopefully you come back. Wow, he can tell some stories. He's awesome. Let's see. Is it me or him? Let me know if it's Thomas or myself that is lagging out. Let's see. Nope.
There, we're back.
There we go. There, you're back now.
There. Yeah. I live in Forks, Washington.
That's not very far away, is it? Only maybe 3 hours from me?
Oh God, I'm always swearing at my till at SasquatchLegend.com because the Wi-Fi bogs down and my till goes blue screen on me.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But so tell us a little bit about the 2 episodes you were in here recently with finding or not finding, sorry. What was the name of the show?
Expedition Bigfoot.
That's correct. That's correct. So Expedition Bigfoot. Was that done here in Washington State?
Yeah, well, my segment was filmed in Shelton, Washington area in July. They invited me to come on to be filmed. So Peggy and I went to some native tribe casino and they put us up in a hotel there and had seafood twice a day. God, it was great. But anyway, we went out at night to this private property and Bryce and I were walking along and, most of it, of course, ends up in the editing floor and everything. But, what they aired was the rogue part. Like when I was in there, I'm like, fear the rogue. And people are coming in the store right now. Fear the rogue. When they walk in, they make a pilgrimage to SasquatchLegend.com to see me after that
Yeah.
episode. But it's I have a relationship with Russell. He invited me to his International Bigfoot conference, and
Mm-hmm.
then the producer he approached me a while back, and we became good friends. He even came up with me, and I took him out exploring and on an expedition, kind of. And twice he's actually come up here. One time he came up just to see how I was in front of camera and everything, filmed me in the Muckleshoot Indian tribal territories with one of their tribe members. But get me on there. It's that's they need to do more of that. They need to get more North American Indians on, and not the concrete Indians that sucking on Slurpees and going through drive-through. I mean the
Right.
bush Indians, guys like me that have lived out there and are still living out there and know a thing or two about Sasquatch. That's who needs to be interviewed.
I would agree with you on that for sure. Absolutely. It's like the nitty gritty of this of the patterns with Bigfoot. Not only that, I think you probably have a better sense when they're around because you've lived out in the bush with them for so long.
Well, what I do is with Sasquatch Island, my Facebook group and TikTok and other things I do, my YouTube channel, is I educate people so they can better their game of having a close encounter of the hairy kind. So I'm going to be 60 next month. My right leg's gone from 45 plus years of commercial fishing and being a grizzly bear
Mhm.
hunting guide for 24 years and having some pretty good wipeouts out in the bush and on beaches. But it's time for me to Noosa, to tell my story in my language. And
Mm.
by telling my story, being invited onto podcasts like yours and others, people are going to listen and then go to Sasquatch Island and join the Facebook group. Go look at subscribe to the YouTube channel so they get a little bell icon when I post a new video. And even follow me on TikTok. I do TikToks in front with Biggie, the big Sasquatch mannequin that Toby Johnson made for SasquatchLegend.com. So as a backdrop, no one else is doing that. And, that's what I look at is try to kick up the game and make it more entertaining, more enthralling, and put in those unique Sasquatch things, where we're going out. Behind me, you'll see another computer screen, but that's my wife's work table for her studio. She
Yeah.
produces videos for us, and she's working on a show to hopefully get on one of the apps on TV, Netflix or Prime or something. And it's all about educating people so they know that it's not the standard, normal, no offense, non-Indian sitting there bumbling and stumbling and speculating. I'm
Yeah.
bringing knowledge that goes back tens of thousands of years that I've sat and still do sit with other Indian tribe members and ask those in-depth questions like, did your shamans used to disappear for months, years on end, so that they would have a Diane Fossey, Jane Goodall interaction with Sasquatch in their
Mm-hmm.
territories and learn the medicinal remedies because the Omaha Indian tribe call their Sasquatch Sitonga, keeper of the medicine. And that's where the medicine people go and learn their trade. I did some questioning with my tribe and found out that both my mother's side, the Cree from central Canada, as well as my dad's side of the Kwakwaka'wakw, northern Vancouver Island, before contact and just afterwards, our shamans were learning from the Sasquatch. Some tribes, when they asked the question, is there any accounts of your people being able to speak your language to the Sasquatches? And they would answer back in your language. Oh, yeah, I remember my grandfather talking about that, how he would
Mm.
communicate with them in our tongue, our language, and they would ask for garlic or apples or whatever, and he'd give it to them. So, most Indians, you got to remember, we have a stigma. We're forced into isolation within our traditional territories and some people outside their traditional territories and Indian reserves. We were to stay in our Indian reserves, only be seen or heard when the non-Indian wanted to see and hear us, which wasn't very often. In
Yeah.
Canada, we had to get permits to leave our traditional territories if we wanted to go to the cities up until 1961. So
Wow.
the Indians like to zip, ug Indian. Sure, one of the reasons I got involved was I was watching a show on Sasquatch, probably pre 2014, and they had this syrupy sucking Indian who had a camo shirt on, and he must have weighed about 450 pounds. If
Mm.
he popped the button, he'd take an eye out at 10 feet. And this was their Indian expert. Like, come on, dude. You haven't
Yeah.
dragged a 250-pound deer 400 feet up a logging slash to the logging road. I could tell he wasn't bush experienced. So Peggy and I said, if they're going to hear from an Indian, they got to hear from a bush Indian. And I'm a bush Indian, so I might as well share what I know about Sasquatch. And, it's best thing I can teach you is wet your fingers and shove it in your nose. Get those nose hairs wet. So, like a coyote, a wolf, a bear, a cougar, when they lick their nose, a dog, they get
Yeah.
their nose hairs wet so you can smell even more. I'm not going to use these fingers, I'll use this one.
Mm.
Windage, that's everything. You have to use that windage to your advantage and to cover you up if you're going to play bush chess and try to get close and checkmate a Sasquatch. The 3 or 4 times that me and my cousin back in the day when we'd spend weeks in the bush, just took a look, we called it. We're going to go took a look. And we go up into the forest, into the alpines, up the mountains. 3 times we put the jig on a Sasquatch where we could see the signs they were around. And we just used everything. We were bush chesting away, and all of a sudden my cousin pointed. And there below us on the hillside, at a junction of animal trails between logging slashes that weren't being used anymore, there was the
Mm-hmm.
back of a Sasquatch with his arm on a log like that was blowing down, looking at the junction with the wind in his face, but we're downwind on him. So I went to grab my 35 millimeter camera when I wanted to move up, get a little bit better position. My canteen hooked the tree and couldn't
Ooh.
just enough noise that Sasquatch turned his body, looked at us, and bing, sprung. And he just, like that jumping Yeti in Russia, you just see him flying through the air like a big spider monkey, and then he hits, and then spring again down into the bush, and you could hear him sound like a boulder rolling down the hillside. But we saw something move off the log. So we knew the Sasquatch was gone. We, got close to him. So we went down to where he was sitting. And that's when we found a round rock. And if you go to uh, Cliff Barrickman's museum in Boring, Oregon, you'll see that round rock that I found from that Sasquatch. I donated it to him in Forks, Washington at our Sasquatch conference 2 years ago. and
Yeah.
that's now in there.
I'm wondering though, like I was trying to mention, is can you feel it when there's one near you or around the area? Do you get a sense that they're there?
Yeah, you get that spidey feeling sometimes, like something's watching you. Definitely, it's happened lots.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the main one is they'll let it be known. So they're gonna oh, it's above my door. The picture I have painted. I do all kinds of native art of Sasquatch, but I did one
Mm-hmm.
of a Sasquatch in bushes, and it's pulling a branch down, looking. And when you look at the eyes, the reflection is my wife walking in the pupils with a walking stick, a backpack, a ponytail, and Sasquatch is watching Peggy. So what they'll do is they'll pull a branch down, like I've done, and they'll look and they're judging you. Oh, look, they're wearing REI and Mountain Equipment Co-op, all fancy colors, got a backpack with a straw going to their mouth for water, got bear bells, tripping and slipping and watching where each foot should go so they don't trip and fall. That's not a threat. But then all of a sudden I see a bush dancer walking like the breeze going through the bush, moving things quietly, not looking where every footstep has to be because they look ahead and in the bush or you look and know where your next 10 or 14 steps are going to go. You're bush dancing and you got a knife on your side, you got a rifle over your shoulder, and that Sasquatch looks, lets the branch up, turns, disappears because the windage isn't its advantage. It judged you. But sometimes what they'll do is they'll pull the branch down and they'll let it go. And as it springs, they turn and walk away. And what they're telling you is, I was watching you. I can see that you're comfortable in the bush or beach environment. I'm here, you're here. I'm going to let you go about your business. I expect the same respect. So, a lot of people who are skeptics, loggers, mushroom pickers, forestry workers, uh, geologists, and others, there's no such thing as a Sasquatch. But then I tell them what I just told everyone now, and they'll go, dang, come to think about it, every time I go up to my brother's cabin elk hunt, I turn, like you said, and there's no raccoon, no cougar cub, no bear cub, no bird, no squirrel, but there's that branch bouncing and no wind. I'm like, yeah, Sasquatch watched you, judged you, let you go about your business. So that's, one of the things you got to watch. And then when you said, do you feel like you're being watched? Well, they tell me they're watching me by doing that a few
Mm-hmm.
times. And the other times is one time where that was Operation Sea Monkey with Todd Neese, who put it together, Ron Moorhead, Gunnar Monson from Sasquatch Coffee, Thomas Steinberg. We're all on this yacht, and we went out and Todd Neese was putting out one of those motion detectors in the ground, a thumper we call them. He was putting that out. Thomas Steinberg and
Nope. To wait for him to come back, hopefully, pretty quick. It's just his connection because he's way out on the peninsula, out in the middle of nowhere. It's a good place to be when you want to be away from everybody. Well, he is in limbo at the moment. Let me welcome everybody in because I didn't get to do that at the beginning of the show. So we had Deidre C in the house tonight. We got the most amazing Jen is here, Eternity Eternal. We have got Cosmic Joe. Oh, he's out. He'll be coming back here momentarily. Just give him a minute. We got Mel WD40 in the house as well. Tim James, thank you very much for showing up tonight. Frankie B is here as well. Oh my gosh. Lars Jonsson, my fellow Swede, is in the house. Fantastic. We also got Lee the Bee. Okay, just give me a second here, Tom, and I'm just finishing up and welcoming everybody in. We got Little Cam, we got Foolishness, Galactic Disclosure Movement, Angie. We got a lot of people coming in tonight. Thank you very much for being here. And we're going to continue with Mr. Thomas Sewid tonight. He has got a wealth of information, and I am just soaking it up like a wet rag right now. I'll tell you what, or a dry rag, soaking it up. Anyway, all right, Tom, let's continue with that. You were saying you can
Yeah,
tell.
so we're putting all our electronic equipment out.
Yep.
Victoria, our good friend, our producer, she was videotaping with a big camera. And all of a sudden, she looked at me and she just, I want to get out of here. I want to get up. But we heard something go boom, 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 like a deer getting up or something big
Mm,
running away. But then she got all antsy, where, hysterical almost. And then the trail camera wasn't working. Todd Neese's thumper wasn't connecting. And then I grabbed the VHF handheld, which I charged up for a day and a half, brand new out of the package, two of them. So I phoned the yacht. I just had the LED screen was just orange, nothing on it. It wouldn't work. And then within 5 minutes, all of a sudden everything started working.
yeah.
So infrasound, I don't know why she was all anxiety, all the equipment breaking down in unison. Maybe it was just chance of the cards, or maybe we were EMP'd, drone was over us or something. I don't know. But that time there, I could feel that like I felt before, just before everything happened. I could feel my lungs. It was like when I used to grab big boulders and walk into the water at Robson White Killer Whale Sanctuary when I was younger. And I grab a big boulder with a hose going to the surface so I can breathe in the mask. And I'd plop my butt down on the gravel of 5, 6 feet of water, holding my boulder to keep me down. And I'd watch the orcas rubbing in the gravel right in front of me. It was the
Oh,
greatest
wow.
show on earth. And then one time, this whale came to me a couple times, and they would hit you, look at you, and hit you with that sonar, and you'd feel your lungs. That's what I felt like a couple times in the bush. And I just, after I got this engine got educated and I learned about infrasound, I'm pretty sure that I've been nailed by infrasound by Sasquatch on a few occasions.
Yeah, it does mess with your electronics. We've had that happen. Not only that, Tom, but we've had an issue where it sounded like from the audio that we captured that they actually opened up the trail camera and turned it off, which is insane to me to think that they're that intelligent before they walk out in front to hit the clips on it and turn it off before they walk out.
See, that's the greatest mistake a Sasquatch investigator makes, thinking that are that intelligent. They are humans. They've been sitting there watching you go up with your trail camera and open it up, push, 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 close it, set it up, back away. They've seen enough people do that possibly in some areas. So of course they're going to go up and monkey around with it. My trail camera, because I never, ever, ever use the nylon strap. It breaks the pattern of the forest. In the Pacific
Mhm.
Northwest, the bark cracks go vertical up a tree. Very
Yes.
seldom are they horizontal. We don't have palm trees that I've seen like that, or bamboo. We don't have that. So everything's vertical. So I never use the nylon strap. I'll go to this big rotten stump from the first logging wave that went through, dig a hole in the punky rotten wood, shove my camera in there and put moss all around just so that the lens and the sensors there. And all of a sudden I'm walking up to my stump, I look at it and go, where'd that trail camera go? I thought someone stole it. So, and no one's out there where we were, and it'd been there for about probably close to 2 months. So as I'm walking towards the stump, I grabbed the guy beside me and stop. Look, there's a trail camera lying on his back right below the stump. But look at the impressions in the moss. You could see big depressions. Now, right away, we went in slowly, making sure I'm telling them, don't step on any of those depressions in case we were going to do a cast of them. And I get up to the trail camera and I open it. I start going through the pictures. There's a picture of it getting knocked off, spinning trees, couple three frames, and the last picture is a right arm Sasquatch leaning down, looking at my camera, smiling for my birdie. It's a blob, blurry squatch, but it needs to be enhanced. But you can definitely see the chimpanzee type face, the black hair, the oily sheen that's in from the sunlight hitting his oily fur. So, you know, Sasquatch is, I never doubt them. I always look at them as the superior human to me. And the
Yeah.
reason why I say that is I got materialism. Look at all my possessions behind me. I got ego. Look at me always wearing camo. I look like the cool Bushman Sasquatch investigator. Not that I ever wear it when I'm investigating, because I don't believe in camo when you're Sasquatch investigating. You come across like a hunter, a threat. So I always wear dull colors. And,
Mm.
Sasquatches don't have clothing, don't have materialism, have laws, very strict laws, don't have weapons, don't use tools for the most part, don't have permanent shelters. We have pictographs in our human history in North America of we humans with bows and arrows and spears fighting big, hairy Sasquatches. We have no oral history in the Indians or in other people throughout the country of Sasquatch fighting clan to clan, tribe to tribe. We are the inferior bipedal creature of North America, Sasquatch Island. So thinking like that and putting them in that mindset that they are a superior human to me. They're just bigger, hairier, and have nocturnal vision. Right there shows their superiority. We can't see at night unless we got a flare, and they
Right.
can, and they have body movement where we lost that ability to just shudder or move a certain way and say an entire sentence by body movement and hair moving. And a lot of people go, well, how do Sasquatches communicate? Like we Indians used to in the old days. A lot of hand signals. We still do. When we're going hunting, we don't talk to each other. We just look, deer, bear, wolf. And so, and other hand signals that we use. So Sasquatches are very, very intelligent. And to go up to a trail camera and monkey around with it, sure, they're going to do it. Probably didn't mean to turn it off, doesn't know what on off means. Probably just wanted to do like the human and copy it, mimic. And then, we know they have opposable thumbs. They're going into turning our doorknobs in Omaha Indian Reserve. When I went there quite a few years back to work with the Omaha Indian tribe, one of my Indian guide, who is very knowledgeable about Sitonga, Sasquatch, he told me, he goes, you lock your door at night. I said, why? He goes, well, they'll come in. What are you going to do? Smell you, and then they'll
Mm.
leave. See, because there's a trait we lost, the ability to smell. Me, because I'm a busher for so many years and I have such an acute sense of smell, and it's one of my
Yeah.
main senses. I just love it when I'm at work. Some woman walked in today, it's just a woman. But man, I sure love that whatever aroma she had on her, whether it's, in a shower or perfume. But, it's just how attuned my nose is.
Right.
And I could travel in a boat when it's foggy and smell the seaweed of a beach and slow down. And then lo and behold, through the fog, there's the beach or the kelp patch. So, and hunting, well, like no one's business. I'll smell the animals usually before I see them or hear them.
Yeah, that's a great thing to have, with you, and even in your mind. It's almost like you're turning it on once you get out into the bush. It's those things, that we disassociate from when we're here in all of this, right? But when you get out there, it seems like so many people forget and have lost those techniques, and you, sir, definitely have them, and just making us aware, right here and now, aware that we can bring those back if we try to, or if we think about it when we're out there. But I do think that you've honed your skills over the years for sure. Yeah. um I'm wondering, what kind of activity are you seeing out there on the peninsula lately?
It's on like Donkey Kong. I had to come up with a strict rule, Peggy and I. We are not investigating unless it's within a half-hour travel of the house and forks, because we're a block away from the store. It's crazy. Like, I'm getting, I broke my rule for 3 months ago.
Oh, did we lose him again? Could be. Forks is a long way out there in the middle of nowhere, which I will be traveling to most likely here shortly, maybe next weekend. But I'm going to go ahead while he's reconnecting. We've got the invisible tracker. We've got Bob Jerkins here. We've got Area 51. I think I've already said that, but welcome, welcome. We got Richard Mimic in the house tonight. And Lord of the Beef. That's a great name. I really dig it. Dookie Pickles. It's fantastic. Blue Screws in the house. Kathy Evans. Yep, he'll be back. Don't worry. Brian S. Welcome. Let's see. Who else is here tonight? The Zohans. Welcome. And yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you for being here tonight. It's been great so far. He Thomas knows a lot, and I've been following him for years and years, and I am just amazed at how fast he talks and everything that he says. It's like he knows, what he's talking about, and there's no question about it. So let's bring him back on to talk some more. Welcome back.
Had to get a coffee anyway while it was rebooting.
Yeah.
You know what's happening, eh? We're being EMP'd by Big Brother, the Men in Black. They don't want me chattering like a Sasquatch.
Well, we want you here, sir. And, like I was telling everybody, your stuff. And I'm just like in awe as I listen to you tell it, and it's so easy for me, and I'm sure many other people, to forget that we have those five senses. It's not just a switch to turn on once we get out there, but it's something we have to hone as well. But yeah, I'm just blown away by the knowledge that you have. So you were telling us about being within a half an hour of things going on in Forks.
You can't do it otherwise. Otherwise, you're just chasing needles and haystacks all over the place. So like here in Forks, and first week of May, I had some young kid come into SasquatchLegend.com and store. And he says, I live over there down that road about 3/4 mile at the edge of the wood. He goes, I have a 30-foot trailer. Last night, just before dark, something hit it. I thought I got hit by a vehicle, but I have a long driveway. And all of a sudden, my trailer started shaking, and I was looking at the pictures moving, cupboard doors swinging open. So I ran for the door, and I'm all out of balance. And it quit shaking. I grabbed the door, opened it, and out in my backyard, walking across the lawn, the Sasquatch turned and looked at me. And then bolted across my lawn, stepped on my husky dog's grave, and ran into the bush. Sounded breaking things as I was running away. So the next day, I phoned my worker in the morning. I said, "You come relieve my shift at 2:00." And then I went up to the Logging Road trail, and then I went through bush. What you look for, and I got to say it the best way to train you. What you're looking for is like a firm breast, female breast. That's the kind of hill mountain you're looking for. Mount, not a mountain. But the Sasquatches will always sleep at the top during the daytime. They're nocturnal. They're the humans of the night. So they sleep on the nipple, the aurora up top. And beneath them, when one gets up or there's a scout on duty, they're around that mount, that hill. And if a perceived threat comes in, Morse code might be a harvester down in the flats, a hunter, but Morse code right up to the nipple. They now know that the next order, next body movement, hand signal might be to evacuate in this direction and go to rally point 1, the family unit, the clan. The harvester hunters or whatever will lead the hairless bipedal creatures away, the perceived threat. So I went up and I seen that mount out my window every day. And I'm like, if I was a Sasquatch, that's where I'll be sleeping. Now I got the excuse. So I went up there with my bad leg and was working my way up. And I got close to the top. And I'm looking and I'm like 40, 50 yards from the crest. And there's an open swath of timber that had blown down in a big wind, and grass and Scotch broom growing in there was open, sunlight in there. So I'm like, shit, how am I going to get across that? So I crawl in and I make a little bolt. And as I'm running across the open patch, whack, I turned to my left and I went straight up that hill for the nipple. And as I'm running, all you hear is boom, 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 boom. Two of them crashed down the backside. I got up, knew they were gone. I yelled at them, I got your number. I know what you smell like. And I bent down where they were sleeping in the hemlock and fir needles, and I smelled, absorbed their smell, learned it, got it in my memory banks for later because I know I'm going to run into them again. And then I put my hands down and felt their body warmth where they were sleeping. So that's how you play bush chess and put the bingo and turn the tables on the Sasquatch. I didn't get to see them that time, but that's the kind of stuff you got to think like a Sasquatch, and that's why when you look around and go, oh, I wonder where they're sleeping, look for the mount. They're going to be at the top where the nipple is. That's what I always call it. It's the only way I can describe it. I'm a guy who teaches my bush knowledge. I got to say it the way I got to say it to get through to you. Humans got poorly developed frontal lobes at times.
That may be the case. That may be the case. Um, so this area obviously is within a half an hour of the store that
Oh yeah,
that you look at,
yeah.
right?
Then I got two of the hatcheries. Like this
Yeah.
peninsula is unique. I'm a commercial fisherman, 45 plus years. I grew up in salmon,
Mm,
and my father was a fisheries biological technician. So I grew up in spawning grounds, knowing the cycles. Well, up there in British Columbia, it usually starts around early run would be in May, but it's only one or two small streams. The main push comes in July through until tapers down to nothing by the end of December. Here in the Olympic Peninsula, you got year-round salmon and steelhead, and they're as
mm.
thick as flies, and it's just amazing. And they got these two hatcheries that I've been going to, and then others I hear about an hour drive away, but I'm just like, that's over half an hour, I ain't going there. But right here in Forks, the uh, Soul Duck Hatchery, well, no, Bogushell River Hatchery. We
Mhm.
went down there. There's a big herd of elk in a logged out area. And then a quarter mile away is the hatchery just filled with steelhead last month. And then you got the Bogushell River that has all kinds of fish. You're not allowed to retain the char or the cutthroat trout, but they're in
Mm.
there and there's all steelhead pretty much year round. And the salmon are going to start showing up here in March. That's unheard of in British Columbia. So for Sasquatch living here, you got all types of foods.
Yeah.
And, so what I'm doing is casing these hatcheries out that aren't on Indian Reserve because Indian Reserve is private property. But we found an area by one of the hatcheries that we went in on a logging road and we found tracks, bedding areas, what I call observation decks for them to be sitting there watching the sports fishermen leave as the sun's going down. And they
Yeah.
look over there, and there's the parking lot, and all the vehicles, lights are going on. They all leave. There's the hatchery staff in their compound. They all leave in their vehicles. Now the
Hmm.
Sasquatch goes, oh, time to go fishing. No
Yeah.
stupid, hairless humans around you.
Right. Right. And my concern there, not concern, is you've been working at this store now for about 4 years. Is that correct?
No, I've been here just since end of April.
Joe, so that
Yeah,
okay, so it's pretty recent that you've moved over there then.
4 years I've worked with the owners since they opened it.
Okay.
I do all
Okay,
their
that's
West Coast native art. Like there's one of my mugs of my designs, but
yeah.
I started doing art for them when they opened up and did the murals on the side of the building 3 years ago. And then I was in the Mississippi River out of St. Louis and fishing invasive Asian carp
Mm.
in February last year. And by the end of April, I was just like, no, stick a fork in me. I'm done. My body was too beat up. My right leg just won't let me work like I used to. My mind wants to, but my leg
Mhm.
doesn't want me to. So I flew back to Seattle. And when my wife picked me up, she said Ken and Lori from Forks, their manager, jumped in the company pickup truck, brought it to the SeaTac airport 4 hours away, parked it, threw the keys on the seat, and flew back to Tennessee. They want you to bring the truck back. I said, oh, yeah, well, I'm here. I'll do it. No problem. Because they got a beautiful company house blocked from the store. So I drove out here. And when I got here, no one's in the house. The manager's gone. Nice Tacoma pickup truck, Toyota. And the worker at the store, she's almost beside herself because she can't handle it. And I used to run my own floating native gift store back in the day. So I'm just like phone Ken and I'm like, hey, how about I stick around for a paycheck or two? I sure could use it, and I'll
Yeah.
look after things. And then 3 weeks later, I phone Peggy. I say, hey, what do you think about me working here until I'm 65 when I get my full pension in Canada? She goes, go right ahead. We call it our home on the peninsula now. We got Kent, Washington, and here. And she even works with us. And I make a paycheck. I get, paid for my art. And I got a nice, beautiful home. And, it's right in the Sasquatch hotspot of North America. I've been to a lot of places, but it has never been this thick of Sasquatch activity.
How many Bigfoot do you suppose are out there on the Olympic Peninsula, if you were to guess?
So I'd never guess. I use data. So
Okay.
Vancouver Island, Indian tribes I've been working with, we came up with a formula of for every 10 kilometers, every 7 miles of shallow salmon, steelhead, heavy trout accumulation, river, stream, or creek, for every 7 miles, factor of four Sasquatches, basically a family unit. So when you do the math for the Olympic Peninsula, and I just counted rivers, I didn't count 7 mile stretches, but some of these rivers are long out here. But I came up with 168 to maybe 220 plus Sasquatches on the Olympic Peninsula. Then when you start looking at sighting reports and in interviewing people, it seems to be that Sasquatch seen 3 times reported on fits this description and color. It's
Mm.
been seen down at this river, been seen out in the elk grounds there. So it's starting to show there's a lot of Sasquatch out here. Pardon me. Every week, someone's in that store telling me an encounter. Now that people are knowing that I'm out here and they know my background, especially being a grizzly bear hunting guide for 24 plus years, people take me with cred. So they're coming in going, yeah, I live down on the Soul Duck at this place. Here, I got some reports for you. And I got the locals now coming in. And, it's pretty amazing some of the encounters I'm hearing. It's a lot of activity out here. Like so much so, people are brushing it off. It's just that damn Sasquatch again.
Yeah, as long as he's not grabbing turkeys and pigs and goats and that sort of thing and taking off, I suppose. But
Well,
um,
they're very respectful out in the Pacific Northwest.
that's
I can't,
good.
they'll go into a greenhouse and take a third of the ripening tomatoes on the table, or
Mm.
they'll take so much of this fruit and they'll leave the chicken pen alone and the ducks alone. But then you have the stories about, Southeast United States where they're reaching in and taking hogs out of the pens and so forth. I can't speak for those Sasquatches because I've only been to, you know, a couple other states down in that area and
Hmm.
never had much Sasquatch, reports. Or never had encountered any other than Louisiana out in the swamp. I heard something. I thought it was alligators growling at night, yelling away. I would not tell my people I was living with and fishing with, and oh, Rougarou, you were around Rougarou.
Yeah, the boogers. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. It's going quick here. I'd like you to tell us about the store that you work at for sure.
So SasquatchLegend.com in Forks is the largest Sasquatch museum and store in North America. It's huge, and that's why I'm lost 100 pounds and keeping it off. I'm constantly walking in that big building. But we have a vast range of Sasquatch items, and a lot of it is produced in-house with Source One Plastics, which Ken and Lori own in Tennessee and in Florida, that produces plastic stuff like signage, Sasquatch crossing, beware of Sasquatch, right from fridge magnet size to 18 by 18, Sasquatch Boulevard, Bigfoot Street, and all kinds of other stuff that they order from all over the world pretty much. And then they have about, I think, 8 of my designs on t-shirts, mugs,
Mug.
tumblers, which are big thermos things, shower curtains, bath mats, We have John Urban, who's a well-known Sasquatch artist. He does a coloring book and poker Sasquatch, which we have in puzzles, fridge magnets, mugs, shot glasses. I won't put my native designs on anything that's alcohol related because of the respect for Chonocha Sasquatch. But John
Hmm.
Urban, he's on shot glasses, and of course all the regular standard stuff you see, and a lot of stuff from the Olympic Peninsula, like whole rainforest, the City of Forks welcomes you sign, and all kinds of things from lapel pins up, because we are Twilight Town. This is where Twilight book series took place, and the Twilight Festival happens every September. So there's four of us stores in town that cater to Twilight
Hmm.
enthusiasts. We have a whole Twilight section as well, and it's amazing now that word's getting out through social media, podcasts, that I'm working there, and people are making pilgrimages to come here. There was two today that came from Upper New York State. They flew to SeaTac, rented a car specifically to come to Sasquatch Ledge and to meet me, get a picture in front of Biggie, and to sit down and talk with me for an hour as I work to understand Sasquatch better. And they bought my book, Sasquatch Island Magazine. I have a book that I sell. They bought mugs and different things, and it's really, I guess, humbling to see that when people that are Sasquatch enthusiasts come in, or they'll walk in and fear the rogue as they watch the show.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That is so cool. Well, I think it's about time that we had Twilight Bigfoot movie
Actually,
come out,
woman, we have a
right?
book in the store where she wrote about forks similar to the Twilight series. I think she's got three runs, three different books, but apparently it's instead of vampires and werewolves, it's about Sasquatches,
You're
and
kidding
it's
me.
happy love stuff.
Oh, wow, that's hilarious. That's awesome. I love that. I love it. So if somebody was to go out there in their backyard, let's say they've got a wooded area, what should be the first thing they look for to see if they have a possible Sasquatch in the area?
Look for the tracks and better your tracking game. Be able to read a fern that's turned over and the underside's facing up and it's maybe got a little bit of a snap. The bouncing back of moss. Take the time to get down and look really close at the moss where there's an impression and watch the moss slowly coming up. It's like watching the big hand on a clock turn, mind you, but you can actually see, wow, it must have been a couple hours ago because the moss is still bouncing back.
Hmm.
Look for kill stones, roundish stones that are going to be put in areas of wind advantage elevated above an animal trail. And that's where the Sasquatch. There's always prevailing winds here at southeast this time of year. In the spring, summer, it'll switch to northwest, and you have those prevailing winds, so they know where to go and look down. And when you see the twigs and the bark pummeled and crushed by something weighing over 350 pounds plus, and snaps all those little dry twigs into pulp powder, that's an observation deck. And
Hmm.
then bring a milk crate with you and put it down and stand up. So you're now about 6.5, 7 feet tall, and go, I'll be dang, looking in my bedroom window, that hairy bugger. This is where he stands and observes me. That's why when I come outside and the wind's blowing this way, I'm having my cigarette, I can smell that rotten odor.
Hmm.
That's SOB standing right here looking at my wife coming out of the shower, that pig. Because they're inquisitive, they're curious. And
They
then a
are.
male is a male.
Yeah, they're very inquisitive. Would you say that a family of Sasquatch would be more inquisitive about people than, say, like a lone Sasquatch?
Family units are more elusive. Mom and
Okay.
dad don't want their youngins to be near us, dumb hairless ones. Lone ones, especially the not juvenile, but the teenage 20-year-old type Sasquatch. I don't know how old they would be, but that kind of lean, lanky teenage look. They're very curious and inquisitive.
Hmm.
It's usually the bigger they are, the more aggressive and elusive they are, and that's where I found when I lived in bush of northeastern Vancouver Island in my tribal territories. You know, there was one big Sasquatch we called Crease. You know, he had all kinds of encounters and always aggressive, but
Mhm.
not a rogue, not a human killer. Because I've had him throwing chunks of rotten wood at me that are exploding up in the tree trunks above me as I'm trying to DD and get back to my speedboat. He, my friend phoned me. He was watching about a 5 acre island with a rich person's house. He was the winter watchman. It was a nice day, so he ran into Vancouver Island to the port and went to buy some groceries and things. And he phoned me. He said, "You know, I think that Sasquatch is on my island. I can hear a tree knock a couple of times, and I got a bad smell when I was on the porch one evening." I said, "Oh, well, buy it something to eat. Give it a gift. Apples, oranges. I don't know. Give it something that's not growing this time of year in our area. Apples grow, but they're not out there this time of year. Plums, you can get them in the grocery store."
Yeah.
So anyway, I told him, I said, when you come up from your dock at the top of the gravel road where you can see your back of your house you're staying in, put them right there on the curve because that's where it's probably going to cross because there's an animal trail there and it's
Yeah.
all timber. So
Yep.
a few hours go by and then he phones me. He goes, he doesn't like oranges. How do you know? He goes, I put 3 of them there. And when I went to the house, I was putting groceries away. And all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. I went outside and looked, and there was 3 smashed oranges on the ground. He threw them at the house. And I go,
Ah,
you should have got him plums.
yeah. We have to cut it short, Tom. So where can people reach out and get a hold of you?
SasquatchIsland.com, Sasquatch Island Facebook group, YouTube channel, TikTok. Google me, Sasquatch Island.
And the store once again?
SasquatchTheLegend.com. We have a vast online store, so you can order through the online store anything that we have in house. And I'll put it together in the morning, package it and everything, put some stickers in like I do with everyone. And if you send an email, you want Tom to get some pictures of him doing your package, I'll be glad to do that. And I'll slip in an autograph Sasquatch Lives Matter sticker for you, and you can order online.
That's awesome. Well, I thank you very much, sir, for coming on. And I know that I'm probably going to listen to this show probably over 3 times just to gather up all the information that you've already given us, just to learn what I should be doing in the bush. And hopefully someday we'll get together and do something together. That would be great. That'd be awesome. And I thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much, and goodbye to everyone.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get to the outro right here. And Dave Scott is up next. And remember, guys, everybody remember, here at Spaced Out Radio, we do not have ugly swag at all. It's all fantastic. And get yourself some. And why isn't it playing?